Hey guys, Steven over KR again, just for our weekly update. It's definitely Miata week this week. Supercharged Miata in for time belt water pump. But what we're here to talk about is the SR Miata. So we actually got this thing fired up. We put it in one of our shorts, but we got it fired up. So I wanted to mention a couple things here. Firstly is the two heater core hoses down here. So we actually reused the Miata hoses. Well, not really. These two hoses are what O'Reilly's and AutoZone calls heater hose number 1. So they're technically two. They're supposed to be two different hoses, but we ordered two of the same ones. The reason is the factory Miata heater core goes this way, and then the other one goes to the back. Now on the SR, if you look down there, you can see that they both run the same way. So we ordered the number 1 heater hose number 1, and then we were able to use a 3/4 heater core connector and then spliced it into the SR heater core lines. Now I don't know what the heater core lines come off of, but this motor came out of a left-hand drive S13 that was swapped. So whatever hoses you use for an SR and a S13 is what you'll end up using. But we cut it up and we got that to fit. This is a Garret Turbo. This one we already know, but I want to put it out there for people who don't know. This top bolt for the feed, this is a 5/16 coarse thread, and the return is a 3/8. The return down here is a 3/8 coarse thread. So just for reference for anybody. If you can see here, we've got an oil leak here. On first start, you always want to prime this hose. So we had this disconnected and we primed it and then screwed it on, obviously. Moving on, as you can see, this car uses LS2 coils. It's not a very good solution. It was already on here, but we're just going to reuse that. Then, as far as the radiator hoses go, we ordered the CX Racing kit. They have the Miata hoses are opposite from one another than the SR, and so CX Racing actually makes the kit, and it was far cheaper. It was like $107 or so. I would have spent way more material just making that. I don't know how they do it, but that's what it is. What it is. Onto the fuel line here. They're not clamped. We still have to add our flex fuel sensor to this, so this was just put on temporarily just so we can get this car to start. These, believe it or not, are actually the factory Miata fuel lines here. Just in our previous video, like I said, we used the 3/8 radium fittings here, and we were able to reuse the factory line here. With that being said, we still obviously have a ton of wiring that needs to be done. This is the Miata throttle cable right here. Our plan is we're just going to weld 2 bungs somewhere, threaded bungs somewhere around here on the intake manifold itself, and we'll bolt it in, and that will be that. So we still got a little bit of things that are left that need to be done. Definitely a lot of cleanup. We're going to do the radiator hoses, and then we'll get started on our intercooler piping. One thing that I do want to mention for those who are going to buy the CX kit for the Miata, their intercooler piping will not work. This is not, I'm sure if you bought their manifold and their turbo, it would work. This is an ISR manifold and a Garret Turbo. So the CX manifold actually puts it here. The problem with the CX manifold that they don't mention, if you look at the photos, you'll see that there's no power steering. As you can see, we've retained power steering, so that's going to be it in itself. Another issue that we had was with their charge piping, it doesn't actually really clear. I don't know how they did it on their car, but they use the stock intake manifold, and that's like their kind of their routing, but it's definitely not going to work on this car. So we're going to have to figure that out. As you guys know, we always use and sell wiring specialties harness. So this is the universal harness here. The wiring's obviously not done, but just to give you guys a little reference here, the 2 wires that you'll be tapping into is going to be this one and this one. So this is blue with it's a black with a blue stripe, and this one is the straight blue. So straight blue here is ignition power. What you're looking for future reference, if you're not working on a Miata, or if the colors aren't right, you're looking for whatever has power while cranking. So you would want to make sure that the starter is disabled, have this hooked up, put your test light behind it, basically hit the key, turn it over, the starter's not hooked up obviously, and then just look for the wire that has power while cranking. And then this wire is the actual start wire. So obviously when you put the car in start, it's going to activate the relay for the starter. Now keep in mind, if you do it this way, you will lose the factory clutch switch. So meaning that you can just start it over without pushing down the clutch. So keep that in mind. The right way would be to look for the clutch switch, the clutch interlock switch, and then tap it in through there. We don't really care too much over here, so that's the way we're doing it. And out of the harness, you really only need, again, this is the ignition wire, that goes to the blue here, and then you've got the starter wire, which is somewhere here. Oh, it's somewhere around here. It's on another harness. The one last thing too is the fuel pump wire. Oh, so the fuel pump wire, as you can see, goes here. The wire here off the fuel pump connector is the blue and red. This is temporary, as you guys know. And these in my other videos, this little piece thing right here, I love the quick splices. This is just temporary. We're actually going to route this wire under the dash to the circuit opening relay, but just to get the motor started, since we don't know the condition of the motor, this will run under the dash, and then we'll find the blue and black wire, because we no longer need the factory relay, because the Wiring Specialties has its complete relay there. So another thing that we need to figure out as well is what we're going to do with the factory harness. Like I mentioned in our first video, maybe second video, the engine harness is built into the body harness, so there's nothing that we can do to remove it. I mean, I guess we could cut it out, but having to clean up all those ends, so that's the next step that we're going to do. But yep, really happy that the car starts. Just wanted to give everybody an update to let you know where we're at. Tomorrow we're going to be finishing up the radiator, fan shroud, and hopefully get started, if not finished, with the intercooler piping tomorrow. See you guys in the next one.